Let's dive right into this explainer. We're looking at a completely ruined city nestled deep in the Aravalli Hills of Rajasthan. Welcome to Bhangarh Fort. Now, this isn't just your run-of-the-mill abandoned historical site. Oh no. It is widely considered to be India's and, honestly, maybe even all of Asia's most haunted location. So today, we're going to unpack this whole mystery. We're putting centuries of bone-chilling folklore right up against hard, scientific reality. Entry is prohibited after sunset. You read that right. That is not a joke. It's a very real government warning put out by the Archaeological Survey of India itself, not some local rumor. And according to local legend, 3 friends actually ignored this exact warning to their fatal peril. Believing the ghost stories were just, in people's heads, they snuck in after dark with just a single flashlight. As the story goes, the darkness there was incredibly heavy. One of the friends slipped into a dry well and got severely injured. His buddies managed to pull him out and rushed him to the hospital. But before they could get there, their car crashed. All 3 died on the spot. If you ask the locals, they'll tell you it wasn't an accident. It was the fort collecting the price for breaking its cardinal rule. But let's rewind a bit to put this into perspective. At its peak, Bhangarh operated on a truly massive scale. Founded in 1573, this was a thriving, bustling city of 9,000 homes. It had a towering 7-story royal palace, grand temples, and a super wealthy marketplace. But if you visit today, you'll notice something totally bizarre. The entire city is roofless. The walls are still standing perfectly intact, but there literally isn't a single roof in sight. Why? Well, folklore claims that any roof built here immediately collapses because of an ancient hex. So this folklore really comes down to 2 devastating curses that supposedly brought down the whole empire. The first is the ascetics curse. Basically, a holy man named Baba Balu Nath lived on the land before the fort was built. He gave the king permission to build, but with one absolute, non-negotiable condition: the shadow of the palace must never ever fall upon his home. Well, the king's grandson eventually built the palace all the way up to 7 stories. The shadow hit the ascetic's home, and boom, the entire city was doomed. But the second story is even more sinister. It involves a dark wizard, a Tantric named Singhia, who was completely obsessed with the stunningly beautiful Princess Ratnavati. Knowing she'd never accept him, he cast black magic on a bottle of perfume she was buying, trying to turn it into a love potion. But she saw right through it. She smashed the bottle against a massive boulder. The magic worked, but instead of making her fall in love, the spell made the boulder fall in love with Singhia. It literally rolled toward him and crushed him to death. Before he took his last breath, the wizard cursed the city to complete ruin, condemning everyone's souls to wander the ruins forever without rebirth. Intense, right? And those ancient curses, well, they've evolved into some seriously chilling modern experiences reported by tourists today. We're talking cries of women echoing around, the sudden sound of breaking bangles, invisible followers, the heavy scent of mysterious perfume popping up out of nowhere, and vehicles just stalling. There's this deeply disturbing account from a journalist named Pallavi. She was leaving and her scooter mysteriously died in the pitch black. The tank was full, the lights worked, but the engine was completely dead. Suddenly, a strange man appeared out of nowhere, started the engine without even touching the scooter, and chillingly whispered to her, "They want you."
Okay, but here is where we completely flip the script. What if the princess and the tantric never existed? What if I told you the entire foundation of these terrifying tales is built on thin air? Because looking at the historical records, there is absolutely zero proof that Princess Ratnavati or that dark wizard ever existed. No inscriptions, no contemporary documents, nothing. We don't even know which royal family this supposed princess belonged to. Even the holy man, Baba Balu Nath, has zero historical proof. These stories are purely folklore. They've just been passed down from generation to generation, getting a little more dramatic with every single retelling.
The science of fear. Unmasking the supernatural. Let's shift gears right now from a campfire ghost story into a really fascinating forensic investigation. We need to look at why people physically feel absolute terror when they visit these ruins. Because here's the thing, when someone says they felt a presence at Bhangarh, they probably aren't lying. They genuinely felt it. But the culprit isn't supernatural. It's science. The true culprit here is something called infrasound. These are sound waves operating at a frequency just below human hearing, usually under 20 hertz. You can't hear them, but your body physically feels them. Now, when wind blows through the ancient, hollowed-out stone structures of Bhangarh, it naturally acts like a giant wind instrument, generating these infrasonic waves. Combine that with the fact that Bhangarh sits right in seismic zone 4, an area known for minor Earth movements, and you get a perfect recipe for a 19 hertz frequency that literally vibrates your body. And guess what? This specific frequency is scientifically proven to artificially induce dizziness, severe anxiety, and that creepy, unshakable feeling that you're being watched.
That leads us perfectly into pareidolia. This is the psychological tendency to perceive specific, meaningful images, like human faces, in random visual patterns. Your brain is actually evolutionarily hardwired to find human faces and figures, even when they aren't there. It's a primal survival mechanism. So picture this. You're standing in a dark, crumbling ruin filled with jagged pillars and weird shadows. Your brain automatically pieces those random visual patterns together into human figures. You aren't seeing a ghost at all. You're just experiencing your brain's ancient software working exactly as it was intended to. And we can actually back this up with cold, hard data. Let's look at the 2008 Goldsmiths University Haunts Project. Researchers in London wanted to test this exact theory. They took 79 people and put them into a completely empty, ordinary white room. No spooky ambiance, no creepy artifacts. But they secretly blasted the room with invisible electromagnetic fields and infrasound. The results were absolutely staggering. In a totally empty white room, 20% of people felt a presence and 8% felt absolute terror.
Paiko Put Banana. Fear creates the ghost. Suggestibility is your brain on a haunted mode. What's so fascinating about that 2008 study is the immense power of suggestibility they discovered. When researchers analyzed the data, people felt those terrifying sensations whether the hidden devices were actually turned on or off. If you arrive at a location already believing it's haunted, maybe you've been primed by online videos or local legends, your brain locks right into haunted mode. Your brain actively manufactures the terror from completely normal things. A swaying tree branch suddenly becomes a reaching arm.
True dangers and real history. Okay, let's dive into the actual, very real dangers hiding in the dark at Bhangarh Fort. Because honestly, the truth is wilder and, frankly, far more lethal than the ghost stories.
Let's compare those ghostly screams with the Sariska Reserve hyenas. Remember those blood-curdling screams in the night, or the sounds of women crying? Yeah, those aren't spirits. Bhangarh borders the Sariska Tiger Reserve, just 50 kilometers away. The whole area is teeming with wild hyenas. And if you have ever heard a wild hyena call out in the pitch dark, it sounds exactly, and I mean exactly, like a human being laughing, crying, or screaming in absolute agony. So the real warning: collapsing ancient structures, Bengal tigers, leopards, complete darkness. That famous government signboard prohibiting entry after sunset, it's not there to protect you from the curse of a dark wizard. It's a straightforward safety notice. After dark, there is zero lighting. The structures are incredibly fragile. Walls can collapse without any warning. But more importantly, the ruins literally become a hunting ground. Bengal tigers, leopards, and hyenas frequently wander right into the fort at night. The government is literally just trying to keep you from becoming a leopard's midnight snack or getting crushed by a rock. And the true historical timeline lays out a much more tragic end to the city. 1573, the city is founded. By 1720, it's captured by Sawai Jai Singh. And then in 1783, the Chalisa famine destroys the city. Bhangarh wasn't wiped out overnight by some magical curse. It suffered a slow political decline. The founder's grandson actually built a new fort nearby and moved the center of power. But the final nail in the coffin? That catastrophic Chalisa famine in 1783. Driven by extreme weather, this massive drought wiped out populations all across North India. In a region already struggling for water, the famine made Bhangarh entirely unlivable. The entire population was simply forced to pack up and flee in search of food and water, leaving it to turn into the empty shell we see today. So why do we still tell the ghost stories? Step 1. Brains crave a clear villain over random tragedy. A brutal famine is just a depressing, random event. We'd much rather believe an epic story about an evil wizard and a beautiful princess because it gives us a clear villain. Step 2. Local tourism heavily depends on the myth. An entire local economy thrives on keeping the India's most haunted legend alive. And step 3. Social media rewards supernatural virality. Let's be real, no one goes viral on the internet for saying they visited an old fort and had a completely normal, safe afternoon. Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood. To conclude this explainer, I want to leave you with this amazing thought from the brilliant Marie Curie. We just took one of the most terrifying, supposedly haunted locations on Earth and completely broke it down into acoustics, biology, psychology, and history. If the ghosts of Bhangarh are really just infrasound, wild hyenas, and a devastating 18th century drought, what other terrifying mysteries in our world are just